Good morning. Good morning. Great morning. We are moving on in Exodus, still in Exodus, on the chapters 16, 17, and 18. And I just want to hop straight in it. Let's get to it. Exodus 16. Let me make sure my AirPods connected. Israel complains, so God sends food. Then all the Israelites left Elam. They reached the western Sinai desert between Elam and Mount Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month after leaving Egypt, then the whole community of Israelites began complaining again. They complained to Moses and Aaron in the desert. They said, "It would have been better if the Lord had just killed us in the land of Egypt. At least we had plenty to eat. We had all the food we needed. But now you have brought us out here into this desert to make us all die from hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, I will cause food to fall from the sky. This food will be for you to eat. Every day the people should go out and gather the food they need that day. I will do this to see if they will do what I tell them. Every day the people would gather only enough food for one day. But on Friday, when the people prepare their food, they will see that they have enough food for 2 days. So Moses and Aaron said to the Israelites, "Tonight you will see the power of the Lord. You will know that he is the one who brought you out of Egypt. You have been complaining about the Lord, and he heard you. So tomorrow morning you will see the glory of the Lord. You have been complaining and complaining about us. Maybe now we can have a little rest." Then Moses said, "In the evening the Lord will give you meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. The Lord will do this because he has heard your complaining, which was against him, not us. What can we do? We do only what he tells us to do. So your complaints are really against the Lord." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Tell the whole community of Israelites to come together before the Lord, because he has heard their complaints." So Aaron spoke to all the Israelites while he was talking. The people, sorry. So Aaron spoke to all the Israelites while he was talking. The people turned and looked into the desert, and they saw the glory of the Lord appear in a cloud. The Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the complaints of the Israelites. So tell them, tonight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. Then you will know you can trust the Lord your God." That even flocks of quail came and filled the camp, and in the morning dew lay on the ground all around it. After the dew was gone, something like thin flakes of frost was on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they asked each other, "What is that?" because they did not know what it was. So Moses told them, "This is the food the Lord is giving you to eat. The Lord says, each of you should gather what you need, a basket of manna for everyone in your family." So this is what the Israelites did. Some people gathered a large amount, some people gathered little. But when they measured what they had gathered, there was no shortage, and there was none left over. Everyone gathered just what they needed. Moses told them, "Don't save the food to the next day." But some of the people did not obey Moses. They saved their food for the next day, but worms got into the food and it began to stink. Moses was angry with the people who did this. Every morning the people gathered as much food as they could eat, but by noon the food melted and was gone. On Friday the people gathered twice as much food, 2 baskets, for every person. So all the leaders of the people came and told this to Moses. Moses told them, "This is what happened. This is what the Lord said would happen. It happened because tomorrow is the Sabbath, the special day of rest to honor the Lord. You can cook all the food you need to cook for today, but save the rest of this food for tomorrow morning." So the people saved the rest of the food for the next day, as Moses had commanded, and none of the food spoiled or had worms in it. On Saturday, Moses told the people, "Today is the Sabbath, the special day of rest to honor the Lord. So none of you should eat out in the fields. Eat the food you gathered yesterday. You should gather the food for 6 days, but the seventh day of the week is a day of rest. So there will not be any of the special food on the ground." On Saturday, some of the people went out to gather some of the food. but they could not find any. Then the Lord said to Moses, how long will the people refuse to obey my commands and teachings? Look, the Lord has made the Sabbath a day of rest for you. So on Friday, he will give you enough food for 2 days. Then on the Sabbath, each of you should sit down and relax. Stay where you are. So the people rested on the Sabbath. The people called the special food manna. It was like small white coriander seeds and tasted like thin flakes made with honey. Moses told the people what the Lord said. Save a basket of this food for your descendants. Then they then they can see the food that I gave to you in the desert when I took you out of Egypt. So Moses told Aaron, take a jar and fill it with a full basket of manna. Say this manna to put before the Lord. Save it for our descendants. Aaron did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Aaron put the jar of manna in front of the box of the agreement. The people ate the manna for 40 years until they came to the land of rest. That is, until they came to the edge of the land of Canaan. The measure they used for the manna was an omer. An omer was about 8 cups. Exodus 17. Water from the rock. The Israelites left the western Sinai desert. They traveled all together from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they turned against Moses and started arguing with him. They said, give us water to drink. Moses said to them, why have you turned against me? Why are you testing the Lord? But the people were very thirsty. So they continued complaining to Moses. They said, why did you bring us out of Egypt? Did you bring us out here so that we, our children, and our cattle will all die without water? So Moses cried to the Lord, what can I do with these people? They are ready to kill me. The Lord said to Moses, go before the Israelites. Take some of the elders of the people with you. This is the stick that you used when you hit the Nile River. I will stand before you on a rock at Horeb. Hit that rock with the walking stick, and water will come out of it. Then the people can drink. Moses did these things, and the elders of Israel saw it. Moses named that place Meribah and Massah, because this was the place that the Israelites turned against him and tested the Lord. The people wanted to know if the Lord was with them or not. War with the Amalekites. At Rephidim, the Amalekites came and fought against the Israelites. So Moses said to Joshua, choose some men and go and fight the Amalekites tomorrow. I will stand on the top of the hill and I will stand on the top of the hill and watch you. I will be holding the walking stick God gave me. Joshua obeyed Moses and went to fight the Amalekites the next day. At the same time, Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the mountain. Anytime Moses held his hand in the air, the men of Israel would start winning the fight. But when Moses put his hands down, the men of Israel began to lose the fight. After some time, Moses' arms became tired, so they put a large rock under Moses for him to sit on. Then Aaron and Hur held his held Moses' hands in the air. Aaron was on the side of Moses, and Hur was on the other side. They held his hands up like this until the sun went down. So Joshua and his men defeated the Amalekites in this battle. Then the Lord said to Moses, write about this battle. Write these things in a book so that people will remember what happened here. And be sure to tell Joshua that I will completely destroy the Amalekites from the earth. Then Moses built an altar and named it, The Lord is my flag. Moses said, I lifted my hands toward the Lord's throne. So the Lord fought against the Amalekites, as he always has. Exodus 18. Advice from Moses' father-in-law. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, was a priest in Midian. He heard about the many ways that God helped Moses and the Israelites. He heard about the Lord leading the Israelites out of Egypt. So Jethro went to Moses while Moses was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro brought Moses' wife Zipporah with him. Zipporah was not with Moses because Moses had sent her home. Jethro also brought Moses 2 sons with him. The first son was named Gershom because he was born because when he was born, Moses said, I am a stranger in a foreign country. The other son, the other son was named Eliz- Elazar, Elazar, I think, because when he was born, Moses said, "The God of my father helped me and saved me from the king of Egypt." So Jethro went to Moses while Moses was camped in the desert near the mountain of God. Moses, his wife, and his two sons were with Jethro. Jethro sent a message to Moses that said, "This is your father-in-law Jethro. I am bringing your wife and her two sons to you." So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. Moses bowed down before him and kissed him. The two men asked about each other's health. Then they went to Moses' tent to talk more. Moses told Jethro everything the Lord had done for the Israelites. He told what the Lord did to Pharaoh and the people of Egypt. He told about all the problems they had along the way. And he told his father-in-law how the Lord saved the Israelites every time there was trouble. Jethro was happy when he heard all the good things the Lord had done for Israel. He was glad that the Lord had freed the Israelites from the Egyptians. He said, "Praise the Lord. He freed he freed you from the power of Egypt. He saved you from Pharaoh. Now I know the Lord is greater than all the gods." They thought they were in control, but look what God did. Jethro got some sacrifices and offerings to honor God. Then Aaron and all the elders of Israel came to eat with Moses' father-in-law, Jethro. They all ate together there with God. The next day, Moses had the special job of judging the people. There were so many people that they had to stand before him all day. Jethro saw Moses judging the people. He asked, "Why are you doing this? Why are you the only judge? And why do people come to you all day?" Then Moses said to his father-in-law, "The people come to me and ask me to ask for God's decision for their problem. If people have an agreement, they come to me, or argument, they come to me, and I decide which person is right. In this way, I teach the people God's laws and teachings." But Moses' father-in-law said to him, "This isn't the right way to do this. It is too much work for you to do alone. You cannot do this job by yourself. It wears you out, and it makes the people tired too. Now, listen to me. Let me give you some advice, and I pray God will be with you. You should continue listening to the problems of the people, and you should continue to speak to God about these things. You should explain God's laws and teachings to the people. Warn them not to break the laws. Tell them the right way to live and what they should do. But you should also choose some of the people, to be judges and leaders. Choose good men you can trust, men who respect God. Choose men who will not change their decisions for money. Make these men rulers over the people. There should be rulers over 1,000 people, 100 people, 50 people, and even over 10 people. Let these rulers judge the people. If there is a very important case, then they can come to you and let you decide what to do. But they can decide the other cases themselves. In this way, these men will share your work with you, and it will be easier for you to lead the people. If you do this as God directs you, then you will be able to do your job without tiring yourself out, and the people can still have their problems solved before they return home. So Moses did what Jethro told him. Moses chose good men from among the Israelites. He made them leaders over the people. There were rulers over 1,000 people, 100 people, and 50 people, and 10 people. These rulers were judges for the people. The people could always bring their arguments to these rulers, and Moses had to decide only the most important cases. After a short time, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law Jethro, and Jethro went back to his own home. All right, and that is Exodus 16, 17, and 18. So just to recap, so they come into Ilium, between Ilium and Mount Sinai, and the people are complaining about having food, and they thinking they're gonna die of hunger. They're thinking that basically their mindset is, we should have stayed in Egypt. If we was gonna come out here and you was just gonna kill us and we was gonna die from not having food. So God heard the complaining of the people, so he caused food to fall out the sky, and the people had to gather it. And the thing is, the people they gathered just enough food to have for that day. So if they kept it overnight, if they kept it trying to keep it over a period of time, it'll waste away and it'll spoil and it start to stink. Um, and so, and then also on Friday, they would gather enough food for 2 days because Saturday was the Sabbath day. And on the Sabbath day, you're supposed to keep it holy. It's the day of rest. And so they would have just enough food for Friday and Saturday. Um, because on Saturday they couldn't go out and go and gather the food. And some people made the mistake of going to do it even though God said not to. And they just continuously like disobeyed the commands of God. And so throughout this chapter, you see them going back and forth on that. And so the food that God caused to fall out the sky was manna. Um, and so with Exodus chapter 7, um, let me make sure. Okay, and so in chapter 17, Exodus 17, this is where water came from the rock, and Moses used his walking stick because once again the people was complaining about not having water. So God told him to hit the stick on the rock, and water came out of it. Um, and then there was a war that they had to go into against the Amalekites, and so Moses was instructed to go and stand on the mountain, and every time he kept his hands raised, the Israelites would be defeating the Amalekites, but every time his arms lowered, they would be losing. So um, Aaron and Hur was on both sides to keep his arms up, and they put a rock next to him to help him keep his arms up so they could win the battle. And then just a summary of Exodus 18. We see Jethro, father-in-law, and this is like probably one of the first times you see like in the Bible where you see them talking about their mental health. So it's interesting that they came. His father-in-law came, brought his wife, brought his sons, um, and he just genuinely asked, "How was Moses doing?" And then this is also where we see Moses get advice from someone that's older than him, and it's not God, but we see somebody give him some great advice to delegate the things that he had to do. So Jethro just kind of sat back and watched Moses do his thing where he had to judge all the people all day long, and it was only him that was doing the judging. And he was like, Jethro was like, "Yeah, this probably not the best solution. This ain't the best option for you to do this because you're gonna tire yourself out. You're gonna also tire the people out." So he encouraged Moses to appoint leaders to be over 1,000 people, 100 people, 50 people, and 10 people. Um, and so this helped him kind of delegate, and he get the most important cases that the leaders can't come up with a solution for, and that way he can spend more time leading the people versus having to judge the people. And so yeah, that's a little summary of verses 16, 17, and 18. Um, and it's a lot that you can learn from this. It's a lot that you can learn from these stories. Um, as we can see, a lot of people don't know that the Sabbath day is on Saturday. Actually, that's the day of rest. And then just being obedient to God. Like I feel like that's like one of the main themes in these stories because the people continue to complain and disobey God and disobey Moses. Um, so being obedient to God, but also being obedient to leadership. We see we see Moses lead by example by doing that. The people complain and disobey. Meanwhile, Moses obeys God, but then he also obeys his father-in-law. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's a good take out of that. how he exemplified and showed what leading by example looks like, how he submitted to the authority of his father-in-law and through him, but also continue to obey God. That's so good, man. Oh, that's so good. But yeah, I really like this scripture because it shows that Moses is a coachable, a coachable person. Even though he has leadership, he's still willing to submit to somebody that's higher than he is, or over him, or older than him. Like he's still willing to submit to authority, and that's like important and honorable because he's leading by example. But yeah, so that's what I have for today, and hope to see y'all back in the next as we move on to the next scriptures within Exodus. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace.